All right, want to welcome in special guest Brandon Weeden. That needs no introduction, of course. Big 12 champion, NFL quarterback for the, Cleveland Browns, Dallas Cowboys, Houston Texans, Tennessee Titans.
Yeah.
Get them all right?
You got them all. There you go.
We thought you'd be perfect to come in here and talk about quarterbacks. And so I want to ask you about Spencer Rattler. And year two, what have you seen in his development? Because preseason, Heisman Trophy, all these kinds of things. What have you seen in year two as he's trying to fight through some of these things and get back on track?
I've seen some good and I've seen some bad.
Yeah.
I mean, just to be frank, I think there's so much expectation coming into the year. You got all this, you got potential first-round draft pick, first overall pick maybe. So there's so much expectation. So it's going to be hard to live up to that. So you take that and you throw it to the wayside. But you look at the tape, and I've watched quite a bit of it. It's just he doesn't look like he is real comfortable back there. Now, that could be offensive line play. That could be just defenses kind of keeping everything in front and kind of the scheme they're playing on defense. But it just looks like everything he wants to do is kind of off schedule. There's no in-rhythm throws. It's all kind of improvised, get outside the pocket, and everything kind of turns into a scramble drill. Yeah. So I think that's a long-winded way of saying I just don't think he's very comfortable right now in what he's doing. He's not playing with a ton of confidence. Arm talent, one of the best I've seen. I mean, the guy can flat out spin it. So it's gonna be big for him this weekend to kind of get back on track, get some completions early, get some of that confidence going, and they got to get the run game going. That'll help him as well. But there's been some good, and then there's been some stuff he obviously needs to clean up.
One of the things on the broadcast on Saturday, Brock Heward, who I think does a great job calling, and he called the OU Kansas State game. He said one of the things that he likes when Spencer Rattler's on the move, getting outside the pocket. As a quarterback, why does that make him specifically more comfortable?
I think, again, he has that arm talent, but I think it gets him away from the rush. For me, when he's in the pocket, he doesn't throw a ton of balls on rhythm, so he likes to get up out of the pocket or go out of the back of the pocket, and that's where a lot of his big chunk yardage throws are.
Right.
And, I think it's good and bad. I think, one, it's good because he's comfortable doing it, but it also cuts the field in half. And so I think sometimes that can be tough on some quarterbacks, not necessarily him, but he's done a really good job of using that to get his big plays. And so, they like to do a lot of bootlegs with him, get him out on the perimeter. But I was just talking to a guy earlier. If I'm rushing Spencer Rattler, if I'm a defensive end, I'm not running by him. I'm going to stay at his level. I'm going to keep him even with him, whether that's 8, 9, 10 yards, wherever that number is. And then I'm going to push the pocket. If I'm going to blitz him, I'm not going to blitz him off the perimeter. I'm going to keep him in the pocket and force him to beat me from the pocket because you can tell he wants to get out there. I mean, he wants to get out and maybe take off and get a few yards and show off that arm. But he and his receivers are kind of on the same page. So, I think he's at his best outside the pocket. And if I'm Texas, I'm going to try to find a way to keep him in the pocket.
Obviously, so much was made over the last couple of weeks about the booing and the calling for the backup quarterback. And he got to play on the road last week. He's going to get booed there no matter what. Coming back here, you ever been booed? Did you get booed?
Absolutely. Yeah, in Cleveland for sure.
How do you fight through that? Because you were a pro when that happened. He's a 19, 20-year-old kid. How do you fight through that and just stay positive and think about football?
It's tough. I mean, he's human.
Yeah.
He hears it. His teammates hear it. Caleb Williams hears it.
Sure.
So it's not an ideal situation. I don't like it. I don't like that they did it, especially at home. They're just not in sync offensively. I mean, I think that goes from Lincoln Riley all the way down the offensive line to some of the things we're doing in the run game. And obviously that all kind of reflects Spencer Rattler's play, and he can make it better. But the booing, it doesn't do any good. I can promise you that. I mean, just for your psyche, he's a confident kid, and
Sure.
you can tell the way he handles the media and the stuff he says. But to me, it's just a lose-lose situation. If it's me and I'm in that student section, or if I'm in that section, I'm giving them the quiet down because I just don't think it benefits anybody. And hopefully there's been enough talk about it that it doesn't happen again.
Sure. I look for OU Texas half. It's going to be Texas half.
Right.
Surely they're not going to be booing and they're going to be scoring some points. I want to ask you about his connection with Marvin Mims. Coming into the year, ESPN had Marvin Mims the 8th-ranked best player in college football. And to this point in the season, he has, 14 catches, no touchdowns. He had 9 touchdowns in 11 games. You obviously had a tremendous connection with Justin Blackman. How does that work itself out? Because these two guys, they're just not finding the right rhythm together.
Yeah, it's challenging because everybody's asking that question to both of those guys, and they're trying to make it work. So Marvin Mims is a deep threat. They want to get the ball to him down the field. Well, the style of defense that all the OU's had to play these first few weeks, they're keeping those guys in front. It's a lot of split safety, a lot of drop 8, so they're not really letting guys get by you. So, I think there's ways you can get him involved. He's an electric guy with the ball in his hands. Get it to him in space, whether it's tunnel screens or bubbles or whatever it may be, and then those chunks will eventually come. He's saying all the right things. I read some quotes today. He's saying all the right things.
Yeah.
I know he's got to be frustrated because he's a big play guy, and I'm sure Spencer's frustrated because I know. Not that Blackman would come to me every game, but if I wasn't getting him the ball early, he's like, "Hey man, just throw it up. I'll make a play." And so there's some of that probably going on. But the worst thing you can do as a quarterback is force your hand. If it's there, you got to hit them. A lot of ball left, and there's a lot of ball. There's no reason to press the panic button yet. Because I think he is a special talent, and they're going to need him. I mean, he's going to be a big play threat for them as the year goes on.
Running game's going to help that offense too. No question about that, right?
I think they need to be a run-first football team. You got a good quarterback that's got arm talent, but they need to run the football. And I think that'll take a little bit of that pressure off that offensive line. There's been a lot made of, them kind of struggling, them kind of getting in sync. Great running back core. You got a nice little 1-2 punch there. If you can involve Spencer in the run game, I think that's where you got to kind of make your money. And then eventually those guys come up, Marvin Mims over the top, and that's what you're hoping for.
All right, hang in there with us. We'll get back to you in just a second. I want to talk Texas, and usually we don't care about the quarterback at Texas, but this is different because he's just from down the street. So Brandon Weeden, we'll see you in just a little bit. All right, want to welcome Brandon Weeden back into the Oklahoma Ford game day, and I got to ask you about the quarterback at Texas. And I said it earlier. Normally, we're not sitting here in Oklahoma City and we're worried about the stories of the quarterback from Texas, but Casey Thompson, kid from Southmore High School, it's a very unique situation. Dad played quarterback at Oklahoma. He hadn't played in this rivalry game yet. What's it like for him? Because he's played football, but he never played in a football game quite like this in a rivalry. What's it like your first big rivalry game where the world is watching you?
It's honestly, it's worse throughout the week. And then once the game day comes, it's like, man, it's finally here, let's go play. And as a player, you played sports.
Sure.
Once you get out there, you don't really hear the noise. You don't hear all the things going on kind of in the stands. So I'm sure he had this one circled. I know it's the biggest game of the year for him, but I bet he's had this one circled for a while. So, he's played some pretty good football. He really has. He's done some really good things. I think they're a better football team with him back there, kind of calling the shots. Steve Sarkisian's done a pretty good job of kind of getting him in a rhythm, doing things he likes. Being an Oklahoma guy, going to Oklahoma, Dad played at OU.
Yeah.
That thing was circled and highlighted, I can promise you. He's looking forward to this one.
Certainly, quarterbacks get all the play. But for Texas, it starts with Bijan Robinson, who, running back for the Longhorns, might be the best player in college football. He is electric. And I think, how's Oklahoma going to get off the field? They've had trouble on 3rd and 4th down. That's why some of these teams have been able to stay on the field, fewer offensive possessions. What's OU going to do to try to slow down Bijan Robinson?
Man, they better be doing some tackling drills. And not just tackling. You got to wrap this guy up. You can't just hit him. He'll bounce off of you. I watched some tape this morning. Hadn't seen a ton of them. I'd seen him live, but I hadn't got a chance to go back and really watch him and see why he's so successful. The guy's explosive. And he's built low to the ground. He runs a great pad level. And guys are literally just bouncing off this guy. He is an absolute beast. And, if you're not very gap sound, in your defensive front and your linebackers are not on the same page, he's a home run hitter too. Yeah. So you got to wrap this guy up. The first guy's got to get there. He's got to wrap him up. And the second guy's got to come try to get the football because I agree with you. If he's not the best back in the country, he's on the short list. And he's just been giving teams fit. So he's a lot of fun to watch. And I was listening to a deal coming in. A lot of people are comparing him to Cedric Benson and guys like that, which that's a pretty good comparison. They kind of run similar. He's a load, and so Oklahoma better whatever drills they do during the week, they gotta get them dialed up.
Coaching advantage here. Lincoln Riley played in this game a bunch of times, 4-1 against Texas. One of those was in the Big 12 championship game, so 3-1 at the Cotton Bowl. Steve Sarkisian never coached in this rivalry, but he's been around at USC, all kind of coaching advantage at all in this.
I think Lincoln obviously knows more of what to expect. You got the stadium the way it is, all the build-up, the fair. You got all the distractions you got to worry about. Lincoln has a pretty good idea of how everything's going to go on Friday night and then leading up to game day. Sark's played in a bunch of big ones, Alabama, LSU, so he's been in big games before. Yeah, exactly. USC had some big ones. So, but in particular in this rivalry, I mean, you got to give maybe the upper hand as far as just preparation, knowing what to expect to Lincoln. You know, and I think he'll have those guys ready. I think, you know, all the outside noise of the good, the bad, and the ugly, this game's different. And this game's different for everybody. When you come to a rivalry game, you can throw the rest out the window. They're going to be ready to play this football game.
Brandon, I appreciate you coming in. That's good stuff. Brandon Weeden,